The seated cable row is one of those exercises that a lot of people do in the gym, and with good reason, because it's phenomenal back exercise. But a lot of people are missing out on some of the benefit of it because of a few simple mistakes, including the equipment that they're using. So we're going to cover some of the biggest mistakes that I see. But first, let's talk about the setup. Now, this machine, or this seated cable row sort of pulley, is set up on the bottom of my lat pull down. In some gyms, if you go into a commercial gym, there's an actual bench here. Now, in this case, we just sit on the floor, or we might sit on something to elevate us a little bit. In my case, obviously, I'm sitting on the floor. But in a gym, this might be just a straightforward pulley on a bench. All right, so just keep that in mind. But the same sort of nuances apply. We do have a foot plate here that gives us lots of leverage. So we want to set up in a position that allows us to get close to it, get our legs nice and long. I want to make sure that I feel like I can get upright. And so if I lock out my knees, it might feel like it's pushing me backwards. So make sure to soften the knee a little bit so that you feel you can push into the plate and you can still stay in this fairly upright body position. So I'm going to be using this double overhand grip. Now, this bar might not be available in every gym, but every gym has some sort of bar that allows you to, that's fairly long and wide, that allows you to get into a double overhand grip. So just choose whatever allows that. And in this case, I'm going to make sure that when I'm starting this out, I'm going to pull my shoulders down away from the ears. I got a nice tight grip, and I'm pushing into the foot plate to create some leverage. And then I'm going to pull the handle to essentially my belly button, if not a little bit lower. So I'm thinking about driving the elbow first, staying upright as I row, and then letting it pull me forward and do a bit of a stretch, letting my arms get pulled along. I'm making sure to keep the shoulders down away from the ears the entire time as I do it. And the easiest way for me to do that is to think about where I'm pulling on the body, because I end up pulling high, kind of like bottom of the rib cage, let's say, or above the bottom of the rib cage. Then you'll feel shoulders kind of creep up to your ears. We end up doing something like this. The elbows get away from the body. So we do want to keep the elbows close to the body. We want to pull low, but everything should stay organized as long as you're pulling low enough from the body and staying fairly upright. Now, that brings me to mistake number one that I see with this is fundamentally, like most people, as things get heavy, will start doing something like this. They start rolling up here. So we want to make sure that we pull low enough for that to happen, to actually involve the back. And then making sure that we are finishing close to the bar and fairly upright. Oftentimes, the second thing that I'll see go wrong is we end up creating way too much momentum through the body, and we don't actually fully move the arms. We end up rowing something like this. Now, we'll get way more back involvement if we stay with the weight. Doesn't mean that you don't lean back slightly, because one of the biggest benefits of doing or using a machine like this is you get lots of leverage, but you do want to stay fairly upright, or at least try to, and you'll feel at some point in time here the most involvement from the lats. And that's what we're looking for mostly in this exercise. Another mistake is I oftentimes see a lot of movement through the head. So as we row, we end up getting into something like this position. And that again drives the shoulders up to the ears and also gets you a lot of neck tension. So we want to make sure to keep the head back with the body and still keep those shoulders in check. Now, the equipment is really important when doing this exercise. And what I mean by this is that oftentimes the most common handle that we'll see used in this machine in a commercial gym is going to be the V-bar handle that brings our hands very close. There's a specific reason why I chose overhand and at least shoulder width, and that's because when we get our elbow by the body and our shoulder down away from our ear, we can actually feel the lats contract. If I'm like thinking about driving my elbow down into the floor and staying tall, I can actually feel tension here. And that's what we're looking for out of this movement. We want tension in the lats, not in the bicep, not in the front of the shoulder. It's supposed to be a back exercise. And the close handle, or the closer the grip, depending how restricting it is, then oftentimes it's going to bias this position where our shoulders roll forward and we can't actually pull it into the body without the elbows flying out, which essentially takes you away from the position that's going to actually involve your back. So handle choice is important. So you can use pretty much anything except for the super close V-bar handle, in my opinion. All right, so hopefully that helps. Enjoy. Bring it.